Ben Hodges is a retired four-star general who does not only know the United States very well, but also Germany. He has been living in the beautiful city of Frankfurt am Main for many, many years. Ben, welcome to DW.
Thank you very much for the privilege.
I would like to start to talk about the drone attacks in Ukraine and Russia. Did you expect that they were capable on an attack in that scale?
Um, you know, I no longer underestimate Ukraine's ability to do things, but certainly I did not anticipate something as sophisticated and far-reaching as this. I mean, really impressive, innovative use of technology that already existed, but used in a way that I would never have thought of. The effects on Russia's ability to kill innocent Ukrainians obviously was important to take out some of those bombers. But also, you know, it's clear now to the Russians that every square meter of Russia can be touched. I mean, there is no place that's far enough away. That's important, and it's going to cause Russia to do a lot of things to try and protect their strategic assets. And it's really going to stretch them. And of course, it's causing chaos there. They're stopping every truck, looking to see if there's more of these things out there. But also, as you know, this was not the only thing. It was part of a broader operation. The attack on Kerch Bridge. We'll see what the ultimate impact of that is. The destruction of two railroad bridges in Kursk and Bryansk. That will have impact on Russia's ability to sustain its operations. I mean, it was a hell of a weekend.
Yeah. What kind of implications will this have on the peace negotiations, you think?
Zero, probably. I mean, the Trump administration's approach was doomed to failure from the start anyway, because they never truly understood the cause of the war or why Ukrainians were fighting. And they were taking the Russian side all along. What's interesting to me is that the administration has been quiet. I mean, at least I have not seen any statement from the president or Secretary Rubio. Only General Kellogg made a statement that, you know, now the risk of escalation is even higher, which is a nonsense thing for him to say. But it's interesting. I think the administration, the president, is trying to protect Putin, and so that's why he's not coming out drawing attention to this obvious humiliating embarrassment for the Kremlin. And there is a lot of pressure from the Congress on the president to support Ukraine with the sanctions package. So it seems to me that he's just trying to stay quiet for a couple of days until this, you know, was no longer the front page news.
Is this the reason why Ukraine didn't share the intel with President Trump? Because they think he would just put it over or kind of inform Putin?
I think they have no trust in this administration, that somewhere, somehow it would have been leaked or shared or whatever. But also, I think this is another symptom of the lack of trust that others have in the Pentagon and our intelligence leaders because of this Signal chat group scandal, where they've demonstrated that they don't have the discipline to use proper procedures. And so even if nobody in the Pentagon or intelligence would have intentionally given it away, the fact that they talk on Signal on their cell phone, which by now surely would have been compromised by the Russians and others, there's no way that, as far as I know, that they would have ever shared this.
I would like to go back to this drone attack for a moment, Ben. What kind of implication has this for the worldwide armies? I mean, drones are fairly cheap to produce, they're hard to detect. Do you guys do you have to change your whole kind of strategy?
That's a great question. First of all, right now, I think every air base commander on the planet is going around checking to make sure, okay, are we prepared for something like this? You know, there's always a dilemma with the aircraft. Do you put them inside a hangar or do you build up revetments around them? Do you spread them apart? Do you scatter them? These are all things that make it more difficult to do maintenance. Everybody's looking at force protection. Same thing for seaports in different countries where you could park a truck next to the Port of Bremerhaven or Hamburg or London and start raising hell with the same kind of technology. So um, I think this is probably going to cause people to look very hard at how they secure themselves. That's number one. Um, on the battlefield, this is where it's obvious. When I say battlefield, I mean air, land, and sea, that changes in the character of war, what you can do with unmanned systems that wrecks very expensive traditional types of equipment. Um, I think the race for artificial intelligence is going to pick up speed because it's really artificial intelligence that will unleash the true potential of drone swarms to be able to do things. And so I think you're going to see intensified efforts on who can have the advantage there. I do think, though, that we should not assume that drones are unbeatable. Um, just like every time there's been a major change in warfare with a new technology, it was like, oh my God, we'll never be able to stop that. And there's always a counter somehow. And I think certainly in the U.S. military, and I suspect most Europeans are doing the same thing, you've got a combination of means to counter drones. Some of it's kinetic. You have a way to shoot them down that's uh, affordable. Or you do things to counter the signal so that you can jam them so that they just fall to the ground. Um, so this is going to be a competition that goes on for as long as you and I are still in our professional lives.
Donald Trump talks about his golden dome, which is, of course, kind of connected to the Iron Dome protecting Israel. Is this like an idea which might work to some extent?
You know, I think actually, even though I certainly don't know all the details and all the backstory on this, the concept of protecting American people, of course, is what the president should be doing. I mean, from a basic concept, that's why when Reagan launched the Star Wars program, the Strategic Defense Initiative that became known as Star Wars, uh, people said, "Oh my God, this is impossible. You'll never be able to do this. It'll be so expensive." But what he did do was number one, he forced the Soviets to have to try and find a way to counter it, and they realized or they believed that they couldn't, and so that contributed towards uh, the collapse of the Soviet Union. So the idea to me seems like, yes, of course, this is what we should be trying to do to protect um, our population and our critical infrastructure. Of course, you can't do that without Canada. I mean, you can't build a gigantic wall for your Golden Dome. And the Canadians have always been, since the end of the Second World War, been a part of North American air defense, as you know. Uh, so he wants to do a Golden Dome, but he's kicking our Canadian allies and neighbors in the ass all the time. I don't think those are compatible. So that'll have to be reconciled. Um, I don't know, and I'm really speculating now, the recent nasty sort of breakup between Trump and Musk. What impact will that have on Musk's contributions towards this? I mean, I don't know enough about it, and maybe it'll have none, but none of this happens in a vacuum. And of course, it's very expensive.
But you think the idea in itself, it's definitely worth thinking about.
It's worth thinking about for sure. I mean, the Chinese have thousands of nuclear weapons, the Russians do, the Iranians are working on it, North Korea has it. So you can't assume that America would be safe or North America would be safe or immune from that sort of attack, whether it's a ballistic missile that's launched, ground launched, or launched from a submarine, or an air launched cruise missile. I mean, that's kind of the beauty of what the Ukrainians have done. The irony that they have reduced the threat against the U.S. by destroying several of these bombers, like the Bears, that were exactly designed to penetrate American air defenses and launch nuclear weapons against us.
For me, it's so hard to imagine. I mean, Israel is a small country, right? So you can protect it with this Iron Dome, but the United States is so huge. I mean, this Golden Dome would need to be like massive.
As is always the case with air defense, nobody will ever have, not even the Israelis, will have enough defenses to protect everything. So part of what makes the Iron Dome so effective is that it's able to detect if a missile is going to land out in the field, they don't bother with it. They don't engage it. They only engage incoming rockets and missiles that are headed towards a populated area. So, it's able to pick through all that. And I would imagine that's the same thing with Golden Dome. The concept is that, they're not going to defend zillions of acres of wheat fields and cornfields out in the Midwest. It'll be more about cities and critical infrastructure. And there will still have to be priorities. I mean, not every city is going to be equal in terms of priority for protection. I don't know. I mean, that'll be part of the work they have to do.
Friedrich Merz, the new German chancellor, is visiting Donald Trump on Thursday in the Oval Office. If you would have the chance, Ben, to talk to Donald Trump, what would you tell him?
I would say, Mr. President, this is Germany's or America's most important ally. Not always our favorite ally, but our most important ally coming to the Oval Office. Use it as an opportunity to strengthen that relationship, to remove any doubt about whether or not, Trump doesn't like Germany, or he's pulling out of NATO, or he's going to try and punish the EU. And the Bundeskanzler, of course, has a great story to tell. Not only is he physically imposing, which I think always means something to President Trump, but he can say, "Look, we're going to spend €1 trillion improving our defense and our infrastructure. We, Germany, are doing our part." And maybe they can address some of the trade issues that I think President Trump will have a legitimate complaint. But I hope he'll. And actually, I feel pretty confident this is going to be a good visit. I don't think we'll see a repeat of the humiliating kind of visits that we had with the South African president there. And I'm sure that the Bundeskanzler and his team, they've already thought through the possibilities, but going in there being self-confident, Augenhöhe, got a good story to tell.
Chancellor Merz promised that Germany will become the biggest army, the biggest conventional army in Europe. Is Germany, I mean, you've been living in Germany for so long, is Germany able to do that without without a draft, forcing young people into the army?
Yes, but it's going to require a cultural change. That service in the Bundeswehr needs to be seen as a good thing, as a positive thing, as an opportunity versus, getting drafted or conscripted through Wehrpflicht. I think this is a decision that only Germans can make about whether or not do you go back to the Wehrpflicht, or do you have a completely volunteer professional army, military. It has to fit the culture and the economy and the demographics. Clearly, the Bundeswehr is too small to do what needs to be done. So there's no doubt they're going to have to recruit more women and men into the armed forces. Part of this will be the traditional way that we do. You have financial incentives, education, all sorts of different things for life after your service, but also changing how people view the Bundeswehr. And the first thing I would do is all these universities that do not allow research and development that has defensive purposes, military purposes, that's got to change. Number one, it restricts Germany's ability to innovate and compete in things like artificial intelligence. But it also sends a terrible message to young people that defense is bad. The Bundeswehr is bad. That's part of the cultural thing that has to change, I believe. And then, influencers from teachers to coaches to business leaders, personalities, how they talk about the Bundeswehr will help change how that perception.
Ben, or the German new chancellor also shifted his rhetoric on Israel, kind of being much more critical on Israel's policy in Gaza. Is this another Zeitenwende?
I think it's essential that Germany, as a leading democratic nation, is able to criticize terrible policies like what Israel is doing in Gaza now. I mean, this is beyond just fighting Hamas. I think Dr. von der Leyen said the same thing. It's unacceptable. I mean, nobody has done more to atone for its past than has Germany. So at some point, German political leaders need to be um, thick-skinned enough to take the heat from, critics who say, "Oh, anti-Semitic," when what he's doing is not being anti-Semitic; it's criticizing terrible policy um, from one democratic country to another. I think that's what he should do.
Do you have any idea where Donald Trump stands on that?
I, I I'm not trying to be a smart guy here, but I'm not real confident on anything that Trump stands for, whether it's Israel or many of the other big issues, because he is somewhat unpredictable. He prides himself, and many of his supporters love that he's unpredictable and disruptive, as if that's a virtue for the American president. Um, I think he's been a big disappointment to the Israelis, actually. And I, I'm not sure where his head is. Actually, he came back from this trip to the Middle East, and it was all about, enriching himself and his family and getting some deals with Qatar and Saudis. Um, but and of course he is trying to get some sort of a deal with the Iranians that's going to look a whole lot like JCPOA that he killed last time, but maybe not even as strong. So I don't know where he is on Israel.
Why is he a bigger disappointment for Israel?
I think the Israelis thought that he was going to give them a blank check to do everything they want to do without consequences. And the fact that he was in the Middle East and didn't even go there, for a visit. Um, and yeah, I think the Israelis probably are feeling a little bit left out in the cold.
You just mentioned Iran. That's also very difficult to understand where he is there. What does this mean, this flip-flopping attitude for the broader region, for this huge conflict?
Part of the reason that there are no deals, no big trade deals with anybody, despite all the promises, I think maybe UK has a quasi deal, but even that's not for sure. No other deals have been done. Why is that? Because nobody trusts him. This unpredictability may be a virtue in some ways, but it's not if you're a nation, whether it's Iran or Germany or China or Poland, and you're trying to figure out what's the arrangement. You can't make a deal if you don't trust the other side, if you don't have confidence that the other side will do what they said they're going to do. And I think the Iranians and that regime needs to go. I mean, the Iranian people, Persian people, deserve so much better than that. But for now, that's who's there. Um, they can see that Trump is actually in a kind of a weak position. Um, I think the Israelis thought that Trump was going to encourage them to go strike the Iranians, or that the Americans would do it themselves. He didn't. We couldn't even destroy the Houthis. So I think the Iranians are like, where's the pressure? Where's the leverage? And they continue to support Russia, which is another angle that, if you try to triangulate Iran, Russia, and Trump, it's not clear to me what effect that's having on all the others.
Ben, Thank you so much for your time and for your insights. It stays interesting, and I'm sure we will continue our conversation sooner or later. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for the privilege. And I look forward to hearing your reporting after the visit of the Bundeskanzler to the White House.
Yes, join us on DW. We will be there. Thank you so much.